be a waste of your time, why you should focus on other things.
Running that cake off might not be a good idea.
I go into depth on a tangent about glyphosates. These are the things that they blast all over your GMO foods and all over foods that contain wheat, and what that means for your health and for your weight loss goals. So
at the very end, you get a little Easter egg for those of you that are trying to get in shape and get fit for summer.
That's it. So wait till the end and you hear Adam drop that. So without any further ado, here we are talking about the worst way to lose weight. Why did they name that car DeLorean?
The guy's name was DeLorean.
See?
Oh, thanks. Thanks,
See,
Doug.
the obvious.
Yeah. Typically why they name cars after.
You've been served, sir. Here's your car.
Yeah.
It's like the Di Tommaso. What's his name? Di Tommaso. What was that one song? What song? That one car that was like Ford engine, but it was a Italian car. Oh, Pantera.
Mm-hmm.
Pantera?
Yeah. Pantera.
Most are, right? I mean, I think most vehicles are named after the inventor or creator, right? I mean,
No, I think the Camaro was named after a horse. Mustang is a horse.
Mustang's a
I know
horse.
most
Fiesta,
Mustang.
Ford Fiesta, that's a party.
It's a party.
Yeah, I don't think that's...
The Nova didn't do too well in Mexico.
Yeah, you're talking about the actual car though. DeLorean's a DeLorean, just like a Ford is a Ford. Those are models
I see
of.
what
That's
you're
a
saying.
model of. That's like that's a Ford Model T. That's like the Model T.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah,
different.
It
Like,
could be, right? The Tesla wasn't named after the maker. It was named after a scientist, Nikola Tesla.
Well, it doesn't.
we
My point is
knew
that
that one from
it's normally
history.
named after a man related to the fucking science that's fucking behind the fucking car being built.
I'm
You
trying,
think electricity, you
You're
think
trying to-
Tesla or Edison. Like, which one are you going to pick?
I'm trying to think of a car
The
that...
Edison. That just doesn't
Yeah.
sound as cool.
I'm trying to think of a car that wasn't.
Yeah.
Dang, you may be right.
Yeah.
We should make a car then.
Well, like what?
I
What
don't
kind
know.
of car? Like
We'll call it the Justin.
yeah.
The Justin
It's got
Mobile.
a big old rear end.
It's got a huge back bumper.
Yeah, it's like a boat.
It's it's rear wheel
Yeah.
drive.
Big ass steering wheel.
yeah. Or the shaper.
Hey, when does your new truck come in? You got it coming soon, right?
Yeah, hopefully the end of this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, are you excited?
What kind of truck
I'm
did you
excited. A GMC. Denali.
just a big old testosterone car.
Yeah.
It's the Denali, though, right?
Is it a hybrid, Justin? Are you being nice to the environment?
No, man, I'm going to carbon the shit out of everybody.
Did you, what people don't know is it was running on unleaded gasoline, but Justin switched it out for coal because it's so much cheaper.
It is cheaper.
He's got
it's
one
more
of the
economical.
one of the few coal powered
coal burning
he got his big-
vehicles.
Yes, it looks like
Shove stuff in there to burn.
looks like the Industrial Revolution 1910 driving by.
You'll notice me with this huge, like, black, plume of cloud.
Yeah, he's giving people, charcoal lung or what do they call that?
I'm excited about having a
Black
truck
lung?
again, though, because it's just like, I can just put shit in there and do some
I
dump runs.
miss my truck, man.
Dude, I love trucks.
You get a badass truck. Dude.
I
Remember
love
that
trucks,
one.
but you're going to be called now all the time to help people move.
Good luck.
Yes.
My phone doesn't answer.
That's the problem.
That is the problem.
It is. You're right. You're right.
So I've owned a few different. I'm not a car guy. Right? I'm not a big. I mean, I can find cars pretty cool, but I'm not. It's not a big deal for me.
Prius, it's cool, right?
It's just not a big deal.
Yeah.
But there is one car that I own that I really, really fucking loved. Always loved this car.
What is it?
Jetta.
No, it's not my Jetta.
Oh.
Why always make fun of my Jetta?
I'm not making fun.
Do you know?
Love it?
Do you know that now I'm finding myself a little bit insecure about my fucking Jetta because you assholes?
Why, dude? Come on.
It's totally challenging my ego.
Really?
I've ridden shotgun many times.
I just don't care,
And I'm
but now
fine.
I'm starting to care because I'm like, why are they making fun of me so much? Do I look that dumb?
Whoa.
And when Ben came to visit, because Greenfield was here, I was like, oh shit, I can have to drive him around in my Jetta that Adam makes fun of all the time.
He's probably stoked on.
He's
it,
gonna
huh?
think I'm a loser. And then I had to check myself. Anyway, my favorite car that I ever owned was my Toyota pickup truck.
See, you like trucks too.
Stick shift 4-cylinder. The little
Wow,
pickup.
That's got a lot of torque.
No, it's
4-cylinder.
You know why I liked it so much?
Why is that?
I didn't have to worry about shit.
Yeah.
Like you don't even have to
You
do
just
anything.
get up and go.
You
I
barely
know.
have to put gas in it,
Yeah.
and it'll last you forever.
Yeah.
It was my favorite car.
Well, you know
I mean,
what?
they did built them to last, like the Toyota.
Dude, my dad had one that had like 300-something thousand miles on it,
I know.
and he never did anything to it.
I have a funny car story actually. Like soon.
A funny car story or a funny
well, it's just
car
funny
story?
situation.
Oh,
Okay, so I was dating Courtney at the time. Like we weren't even really dating. I was still trying really hard to date her, and I took her on a date, and she didn't.
You were trying to date her?
Dude, she put me through the ringer. Anyway, so I was like picking up my car at the 24 Hour Fitness where I left it, and at the time I had like this like Tercel, like a Toyota Tercel, piece of shit, right? And like, you know, thank God I have confidence. Because any other dude would have been like, oh God, like I can't like I took her out in the Tercel, right? And then drop her off. She had this like SS Camaro, you know, it was all red. It was just fucking badass, you know. And so she gets in her car, say goodbye, whatever. And then we meet up again at the stoplight. And I'm looking over at her, and I'm looking back, and I'm just, it's so
Rev your engine?
I revved my engine. I was like, wee wee, and then like thought it was like gonna be funny, you know. She looked over at me, and then she put her hand like over her face.
No, she did.
She drove off and like peeled out. And I was like, oh no, oh no, this car sucks.
I drove in high school. The first car I drove was a shit brown 1987 Toyota Camry.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Honda Civic, and I was gonna be like, yeah, I had one of those.
And a Toyota Camry is not a bad car, but this was the year that they thought that turd brown would be a cool color for people for some weird reason, and it was old.
Like,
and
here you go. Here's a moving piece of shit.
Well, and it was already like 10 years old, so the sun had oxidized the paint, so it was like this. It was all
it's got spots.
Oh yeah, it was all fucked up.
The headliner kind of come down.
Every tire and wheel was different, right? So I was missing hubcaps on 3 of the 4 wheels. The rear tail light was busted out. My parents had accidentally left the windows down on a really stormy winter night, and it got flooded inside there, so it smelled like mildew inside of the car. And then they locked their keys in the trunk one time, so my dad had to drill the key lock out of the trunk, so there was no like key. The thing was just a piece of shit.
How'd you keep it on after that? Like bungee cords?
Oh yes, totally.
Oh no,
it was so ghetto. So I drove that for a good year and a half in high school for me. But you know what? Back to the old like built character, man. I think everybody should have.
Bro, I still got dates in that piece of shit.
Right.
I'm not done building character.
I see that.
You got some work.
Well, it's not a piece of shit.
No, that's I
you don't have, bro.
But I had a what did I drive? A Colt, a 19. God, it must have been like an 85, 84 Colt. You guys remember Colts? The Dodge Colt. And it was when I turned, and I don't know, maybe you guys can tell me because you're not really, Justin's kind of a car guy. When I would turn the car a little sharp, it would go click, 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 click as I'm turning. So what was that?
So like it didn't track at all?
I don't know. It would make this fucking sound. So if I had
quiz Justin
your steering column.
No, like you'd hear it like it would make this sound. So anyway,
you normally have a baseball card in your spokes.
Oh, is that what it is?
That's what I would have said.
Yeah.
So whenever I'd have people in my car, I'd try to avoid making U-turns because it would make that sound. Like I could take a wide turn, but if I turned too much,
did it have power steering?
No.
Oh yeah.
No, it didn't have power steering. The AC didn't work, so it got the nickname the Inferno because it would get hot as fuck. And you'd ride in that thing in the summer, and it was like a sauna. You just sweat your dick off in there. And we took it to...
Did it have bees like in the engine or anything? Or
no.
Rat's nest?
What? No, it didn't have any of that. So you guys remember when you first got your driver's license, how like you just want to drive places. Like you didn't even care. Like, let's go to the mall. That's cool.
Yeah.
So me and my cousins one day were like, let's go to Santa Cruz. Okay. So we're driving over the hill, and the top speed that I could hit, like floored, because my car was full of people, was 40 miles an hour. So I'm going 40.
Nice.
Yeah, and then we overheated.
Semi's passing you.
We overheated when we were in Santa Cruz.
Ooh.
You know, this is why I think it's crazy when parents buy their kids like really nice cars in high school or their first car, because
it's stupid.
It is silly because at that age, first of all, you're more likely to get in an accident than you are when you're 30 plus or whatever, mid 20s even, right? If you're your first vehicle, the likelihood of you getting in an accident is much, much higher. The other thing is, at that age, you don't give a fuck. You just care about transportation.
You get out and go.
Like, I was so grateful for that piece of shit car because it was like, because the previous 15 years of my life, I was on foot, or on a bicycle or rollerblades. This was a fucking upgrade and a half.
Hey, girl, you walking home? I got a car.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was such
a fucking turd, but it's a car.
Right, and it builds character. So I think it's there's lessons to learn from that. I think it's important.
That's one of the reasons why I don't feed my kids sometimes, because I want them to, when they eat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Appreciate the food.
You're a dictator.
Like, I'm so hungry, Dad. I can barely. All right, you can eat something.
Here's your rations.
Yeah, and I give them a little bit of food, and they're like, "Oh my, thank you, God, for this." And they're so happy.
Wow.
for the food
That's
that
how
I
you
finally
do it.
gave him after 5 days.
Good strategy.
Totally joking,
I
by the
like
way. I don't
that.
want child protective services.
no.
Did I tell you guys about the time I made a stupid joke at my kid's school next to the teacher, and the teacher looked at me like she was going to call the fucking authorities on me?
Oh God.
Yeah, we were. It was like an open house.
Yeah,
See,
they don't get it.
I have the worst. My sense of humor is super inappropriate in the worst places. We're at the school and we're looking at like the stuff that the kids did, because it's an open house. And she's like, "Oh, and your son did this and that," and she's like, "And he did this, but he forgot this part here, so you might want to talk to him about it." And I'm like, "I'm just gonna have to beat him again." And
You did not
yeah,
say
I did.
that to the
and
teacher.
she looked at me like this look like, "Are you serious?
Oh, my God, I
Am I
love
gonna
it.
call the?" And I'm like, "I don't beat my
You're
kid,
like,
okay?
Come on, lady.
I'll beat your kid, but not my kid,
shit.
because I love my kid. I don't know your kid."
Hey, you just came across the study you were talking about. I wanted you to bring it up while we're on air, in regards to the topic that we talked about the other day,
Dude,
on the podcast.
yeah, so I actually brought this up on an episode. I think it was a Q&A a little while back where we were talking about one thing led to another, and we're talking about the obesity epidemic and what the cause is for the obesity epidemic. And you had brought up how
Technology.
yeah, that's it, and how inactive we are, right? How we just don't move anymore. And this has been part of the paradigm surrounding the obesity epidemic now for a while, in which they say, hey, one of the main reasons why we have obesity, and one of the main reasons, if not the main reason why children are getting obese, is because we don't move nearly as much as we used to. And on paper, this makes total sense. If you try to calculate calorie burn from tons of activity versus calorie burn from no activity, then you're going to come out with big differences, right? And they said in the past, like a woman 100 years ago burned like 3,000 calories a day or something like that, and a woman today burns like 1,700 calories a day. So there you go. That's why we're obese, and it makes sense, right? Face value, it makes total sense. But the science actually is showing that is not not the case at all. And it's really proving that, and I brought up this particular study that I just actually looked up again, and I saw some more on this. But before I get into them, because these studies are proving that that's not the case at all. And it's cool because it's important.
Well, when you say it, I don't know if you can say at all. I think that's a strong statement.
Oh, well, so check this out. So
you're gonna have to wow me with this study to get me.
So there's been
convinced that
several studies, but there was one that was published, I believe, in 2012. Let me see if I can find the name of it. The scientist's name was Kravitz, and he was
Lenny Kravitz?
No, Alexei Kravitz.
I'm gonna go my way.
already.
He's a
great song.
No, well, let me see. Let me make sure I get the right one, because there was one study in particular that was really, just really blew me away. Sorry, that was actually the wrong study. That's another study we're going to talk about. But Ponser, Pontzr, did a study on some tribes in Africa, and they were using these methods of testing their metabolic rate that are pretty accurate, where you can figure out how many calories someone's burning throughout the day. And this was a tribe of typical hunter-gatherers, so their days consisted of lots of activity, far more activity than the average person. And he thought that he'd find this huge calorie burn. Like, okay, these people...
How are they doing? Did they say, was it like heart rate monitoring, or like what was the measured device that they're using?
No, let me see if they have here how they were studying it. I'm gonna keep looking it up.
Well, you can
see.
Is that the study right there,
find
Doug?
it.
I don't know.
Oh, you're just putting random shit up there.
Yeah. So anyway, he thought for sure he would see a ton of calories being burned. And it was weird because it didn't make sense because they were eating so little on top of it. Most hunter-gatherers don't eat a lot, mainly because food is not easy to get. It's when you're a hunter-gatherer. It just isn't. So when they're looking at these people's metabolic rates, he found that they burned right around the same amount of calories as an office worker. And it just blew him away. He couldn't figure out why. And a lot of it has to do with, and some of the theories surrounding it are saying things like the body becomes very efficient at activity.
Which we know this.
And the body adapts its basal metabolic rate at rest. So he found that they burn right around the same amount of calories as somebody who's inactive. Now, in hindsight, at first you're like, this is crazy. They should be burning more calories. But if you really think about it, it makes perfect sense. It makes no sense that the human body would evolve to just burn shit tons of calories with lots of activity in environments where food was scarce, which is how the human body evolved. The human body evolved where food was very scarce. We fasted a lot of the time. We went without food a lot of the time.
Well, we're the most efficient at storing energy and storing calories like that. We're trying to survive. Like what we're talking about, that goes against like survival mechanisms.
Mm-hmm. It makes perfect sense, right?
We're not the best at storing energy, though.
Of all animals?
Yeah, no.
No, we're just, but we are
good at it. Like an alligator eats like once a year.
Yeah. Like we're really good at it.
I learned this in the nature channel.
Wow, that's man.
Little
When
random.
you're looking at the spider webs and all that.
Little random
Look
fact
at
for you guys
man.
right there.
I like that little Nat Geo
I love it.
knowledge coming in
Is it
here.
once a year?
Yeah, once a year.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's cool.
So,
I was fascinated by
so
that.
it makes sense because we evolved in these environments with very, very little food. And when we did find it, many times we found not much. And to get the food, we had to do a lot of moving. And so, of course, the humans that had metabolisms that were super adaptive, where they could slow way down to compensate for this, were the survivors. And they were the ones that were going to procreate. And those are the genes that we inherited. And so, and this is, look, as personal trainers, this makes perfect sense. You guys know as well as I do. How futile is it for a client to come in who wants to lose 40 pounds and change nothing about their diet and just beat themselves up in the gym? How effective is that?
Yeah, it's not at all.
Never.
Horrible strategy.
It just doesn't work. In fact, what do we always see when people do that? They'll initially lose some weight, and then they will lose nothing and sometimes gain weight again, and then they're working out like crazy just to stay where they're
And
at.
then they burn out, and then they keep those bad eating habits, and it's just
It doesn't change anything.
nothing.
The other thing, too, that was interesting is the obesity epidemic really took off in the 70s, 80s. That's when it started to explode, and then it's just kind of accelerated from there, right? We were kind of sedentary before that. The Industrial Revolution kind of modernized things. We had the Agricultural Revolution for a long time. Humans weren't super active in the 50s and 60s either. I mean, a little more than they are now, but it wasn't like this dramatic change in activity level. What changed was the food.
Mm-hmm.
So, that being said, I think that's important to communicate to people, and that scientists are actually discovering this through their own study. I mean, fucking mind-blowing, right?
No, it is. But I think it's a strong statement to say that it's all because of the food. I think there still is there's still something to be said about the lack of movement and strength training and that and what that role plays in your overall metabolism.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the combination, because it makes perfect sense, right? If you are only eating so much and you're having to go out and hunt your food and you only get 1,800, 2,000 calories, eventually the body it'll adapt. Just like that's why we tell people not to diet that way, right? We tell people don't go from over consuming like crazy 4,000 calories a day to a 1,500 calorie diet and exercising like crazy, because guess what? Mm-hmm. The body will adapt and get efficient on that. If you go from 4,000 down to that, you might see great change for the first couple weeks, but your body real quick will get adapted. We were just talking about this yesterday. I was with Miles hanging out, and he was, asking about how I was training and how I start to increase my volume over time. And I was like, the mistake that a lot of people make is they go from this, hey, I'm out of shape, I need to get in better shape, or I've got this wedding in 6 weeks, or whatever the fuck may be, that they're motivated all of a sudden. And they go from not paying attention to what they're consuming, eating all kinds of bad choices, drinking alcohol, not really exercising, strength training, to boom, strict diet. They're eating chicken salads every day. They're doing cardio for an hour. They're training their ass off.
Water.
Yeah, they're training their ass off in the gym, and it's like, why would I want to do that? First of all, it would be miserable to go from one extreme to the other extreme. The workouts are going to be awful. It'd be like reminding me of Hell Week when I was in high school. I mean, your body is only going to figure that out, and then you're going to have to find a new level that you're going to have to reach if you want to continue to see change in your physique.
Well,
So
I think it's important we need to say this, that although trying to burn more calories through activity is probably, and using that as your weight loss strategy is a horrible weight loss strategy. That doesn't mean that exercise is a waste. It's very good for you, period, end of story. Now, because you improve your health through exercise, inadvertently, you may improve your body's ability through more balanced hormones, through better mood, through better strength.
Yeah, stronger heart, more muscle. There's so much more going on.
Those things will contribute to a body that's more likely to not want to store tons of body fat. So there's definitely effects that will help you lose weight from exercise. Many of them, if not most of them, come from just being healthier. But there's some other studies that are pretty interesting. There was another study that was done. It was published in Obesity Research in 1994. And it was a great study because they actually took...
That's an old study, bro.
They took... I'll tell you why I'm quoting this study. They took pairs of twins. And some of the best studies you could find are ones that study twins because you can have one do one thing and one do another thing. And
if they're identical, right?
Yeah, they're identical, and you can control certain things. Anyway, what they found was that... And they also housed them in a research laboratory with 24-hour supervision. So it was like super control, right? And they would have one of these twins do like cardio every single day. And I forgot how much they did. It was, I think, like 2 hours of stationary biking or something like that every single day. The calorie expenditure that the researchers thought that they were going to see was off by something like 20 or 30%. So they were like, oh, you're going to burn this many more calories. Well, it turned out to be way less than they thought. And they only lost something like 10 pounds when they calculated that they should have lost way more based on the food that they were eating. And remember, they were supervised this entire time, and by the calories that they were burning. And they were supervising the entire time. So, and they were like, this is crazy. It doesn't make mathematical sense. The whole like 3,500 calories equals 1 pound of fat, and you do the math.
Yeah.
It didn't make fucking sense. And the reason that they theorize is their bodies adapted super well to burning less calories with activity, which is what they found. Not only that, but they found that the twins that did all the activity burned less calories at rest than their sedentary twin. So it's like the body totally adapted to slow down.
Yeah. You just see that with anybody that's been doing a lot of endurance and like how their heart rate. It's impossible for them to get their heart rate to like get to a max level because they're so adapted and they're efficient. You become super efficient at utilizing your energy.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's some other stuff. Just before you add some other interesting stuff. Studies have demonstrated that when people exercise, inadvertently, without realizing it, they increase their food intake. Now, there could be a psychological effect. I deserve this because I'm exercising. Although other studies have demonstrated that it may not be that. It's actually the body kicking up its hunger mechanisms to make up for the extra calories being burned. They also find that when people exercise, they tend to be more sedentary throughout the day, just naturally. Again, the body may be sending signals saying, you burned a lot of calories earlier. We need to conserve. There's all these things.
That's a great point because you see people that hammer themselves in the gym for like an hour and then they're pretty much like on the couch and like trying to recuperate after that like one workout, like so ineffective in comparison to just moving constantly and having like light resistance work.
I remember reading a study about 8-10 years ago that talked about the average person as far as if you worked out an hour intensely a day every single day, that you're still considered sedentary. Because even if you blast the gym for an hour, the amount of movement and calorie expenditure that you accomplish just in 1 hour, you're only talking like 600-800 calories tops. I mean, that's high intensity too. Like most people are just doing a cruising through.
And now you're prioritizing like healing, which is like it's not advancing you.
No, and don't forget, like if you're burning 800 calories or 600 calories with your new workout and you're doing it all the time, studies will show that you're not going to burn 600 calories after doing that for a month or whatever. Eventually, your body becomes so efficient.
Dude, so cardio, it only takes the body about 2 to 3 weeks to adapt to your cardiovascular training. It takes 4 to 6 weeks on average to adapt to whatever resistance training that you're doing. So and I used to do this like watching my VO2, you can increase your VO2 max like every day. Like if you decide, okay, I like for someone like me, I don't do any cardio.
That's why I
right?
never bought into those meters, the VO2. Yeah,
It's like whatever. It doesn't
changes
even,
all the time.
Yeah, you can change it so easy and so fast. Like if we were to measure VO2 right now, get out there. I run as hard as I can for 20 minutes. We see where my heart rate's at. We see where my cardio threshold is at. Tomorrow, I can increase that and improve that already. So it just shows you how fast your body adapts, your cardiovascular system adapts to those types of stresses. So this is what would just boggled me in the bodybuilding world was when I'd see all these bodybuilders off season doing cardio still. And I'm going like, what are you doing? Like, why are you telling your body that this is like normal for it? And then when you go into cutting for your show, you try and add a little bit more cardio, or you ramp it up a little bit, and it's already pretty efficient at what you've been doing, so you don't get much of a response from it. And when you're in the business of your body changing aesthetically, you want to be able to do something and then your body respond to it, especially if you're putting in extra work. So it makes no sense for these bodybuilders and these coaches that are prescribing fucking cardio to their bodybuilders, their bikini athletes, off season. It doesn't make sense. Not if you want to be efficient come prep time. And this is also why I'd always tell these guys that, most of the hard work for those that inspire to be a competitor is pre-contest prep, is how you set your metabolism up, how you get everything ready to go so that when you do